15 newborns look like puppies. Until the vet spots the one detail that changes everything. Most days in Maple Ridge, a quiet town tucked between long country roads and open fields, passed without anything strange happening at all. But on one warm spring morning, something unbelievable began inside a small animal clinic on the edge of town. The sun had barely risen when Ivy, the clinic's junior vet, heard a sound she knew too well. Soft, shaky whimpers carried through the hallway. She had been sorting files, trying to get ahead before the rush of appointments, but the noise made her stop cold. She followed it to a kennel at the back of the clinic where a golden retriever lay on her side, panting hard. The tag on her cage said Luna. Someone had dropped her off late the night before and left without a word. Luna's belly was swollen, her breath sharp and uneven. Ivy's heart squeezed with worry as she knelt beside her. The dog's eyes met hers with pure fear and trust all at once. Ivy whispered gently and checked Luna's stomach. The contractions had already started. There was no time to wait for the senior vet to arrive, no time to call for backup. She was alone with a dog about to give birth. She prepared everything she needed, her hands moving fast even though her nerves buzzed under her skin. She had helped with plenty of births before, but something felt different. Luna wasn't just in labor. She was exhausted in a way that didn't look normal, like she'd been carrying more weight than her body could handle. By the time the first puppy appeared, Ivy was sweating. She lifted it carefully, cleaned it, and wrapped it in a warm towel. Then she froze. The face didn't look right. Its paws were too large for its tiny body, and its fur wasn't soft and curled like newborn golden retrievers usually had. Instead, it was oddly rough, patterned with streaks she couldn't explain. The puppy let out a sharp cry that didn't sound like any cry she had ever heard. Before she could take a closer look, Luna pushed again. Another puppy arrived. Then another. And another. The next 2 hours blurred into frantic work. Ivy counted as she placed each newborn in a padded box under a heat lamp. 7, 8, 9. Her hands were shaking now. Her scrubs were damp. Every pup had the same strange features. Large paws. Rough coats. Those sharp cries that felt like they came from some wild place far from Maple Ridge. 10, 11, 12. This wasn't possible. Even for a large dog, this number was unreal. Ivy's stomach tightened with every new life she handled. 13, 14. By the time the 15th puppy slid into her hands, Ivy felt her heart pounding in her throat. Luna lay completely drained, but she kept her gaze fixed on her babies, as if begging Ivy to understand something she couldn't say. Ivy wiped her forehead and forced herself to slow down. She took a deep breath and finally looked at the pile of newborns under the warm light. 15 tiny bodies. All breathing. All warm. All alive. And every single one of them looked wrong. They weren't like any puppies she had ever seen. They weren't like any puppies anyone had ever seen. As Ivy leaned closer, trying to steady her breath, she saw something that made her chest go tight. Thin lines across Luna's stomach. Surgical scars. Old ones. That was when Ivy understood one thing with absolute certainty. Whatever these newborns were, they were not normal dogs. And Luna had been through something she never should have faced. The newborns were finally sleeping, huddled together in their box like a strange little cluster of warm stones. Ivy checked Luna's breathing and covered her with a soft blanket, but her mind refused to settle. The scars on Luna's stomach kept replaying in her head. Someone had done surgery on her. Not a simple spay. Something else. Something planned. Before Ivy could gather her thoughts, the clinic's front door opened. The sound of boots echoed down the hallway. She assumed it was one of the morning staff arriving early. Relief washed over her. She needed help and she needed answers. But when the man stepped into the whelping room, Ivy didn't recognize him. He wore dusty jeans, a thick jacket, and a badge from a local ranch pinned to his chest. His face was stern, weathered, and his eyes scanned the room quickly, almost hungrily, until they landed on the box of newborns. "I'm here for the dog," he said without even greeting her. "And the litter." Ivy stepped in front of the box without thinking. "Sorry? Who are you?" "The name's Clint," he grunted. "I work for Harper Ridge Ranch. Luna belongs to Mr. Lowell. He wants her back." Ivy's heart skipped. Nobody had mentioned an owner when Luna was dropped off. "She was left here as a stray," Ivy said. "We have procedures for her." "I'm not here for procedures." Clint took a step closer. His voice dropped lower. "I'm here to pick up what belongs to the ranch." Ivy's hands curled into fists. "Not until I see paperwork." He stared at her for a long moment. His jaw tightened. "Miss, you don't get it. This isn't optional." Luna whimpered weakly behind Ivy. The puppies stirred as if sensing the tension in the air. Ivy felt something sharp twist in her gut. Everything about this man felt wrong. Clint took another step forward. "These pups," he said, nodding toward the box, "are part of something important. And Mr. Lowell doesn't like delays." Ivy swallowed hard. Important how? What happened to Luna? What kind of breeding was she part of? Clint's expression flickered, just for a second, but she caught it. A flash of irritation. Maybe fear. "That's none of your concern," he snapped. "Now move." Ivy didn't move. Every instinct she had was screaming at her to protect Luna and her babies. "The senior vet will be here any minute," she said, forcing her voice to stay steady. "If your boss wants these animals, he can talk to her. Not me." Clint stared her down so intensely she felt the weight of it in her chest. Then he pulled something from his pocket. A thick envelope. "Money," he said flatly. "For your trouble." Ivy felt her anger rise like fire. "We're not selling dogs," she said. "Not to you. Not to anyone." For a moment the room felt impossibly still. Then Clint slid the envelope back into his pocket, his eyes cold and sharp. "You're making this harder than it needs to be," he said. "Mr. Lowell doesn't appreciate trouble." He turned and walked out of the room, but his last words lingered heavy in the air. "I'll be back." Ivy stood frozen, her pulse racing. She looked at Luna, then at the puppies. The room suddenly felt smaller, the air tighter. Whatever these newborns were, whatever had been done to their mother, someone powerful wanted them back. And Ivy could feel it deep in her bones. This wasn't just a strange birth. This was the start of something dangerous. Ivy locked every door in the clinic the moment Clint drove off. Her hands were shaking, but she forced herself to think clearly as she checked on Luna and the puppies again. The little box of newborns looked peaceful, but she couldn't forget Clint's warning. Trouble was coming. She could feel it. By late afternoon, the building was quiet. The senior vet hadn't returned yet because a highway accident had blocked traffic for miles. Ivy stayed alert, checking the security cameras every few minutes and keeping Luna close. The sun had set when she heard the first strange sound. A low thump from the back of the building. Not loud, but wrong. Ivy froze and listened. Another thump followed. Then a scratch. Her heart climbed into her throat. She grabbed her phone and tried calling the senior vet again. No answer. She dialed 911 next, but the call dropped almost immediately. No signal. "What is going on?" she whispered. Then she smelled it. Smoke. It drifted through the hallway, faint at first, then stronger. Ivy's stomach turned. She ran toward the back storage area and felt the temperature rising sharply. Thick smoke was already curling under the door. The clinic was on fire. Panic surged through her chest, but she didn't have time for fear. She sprinted to the whelping room, grabbed the portable carrier she'd prepared earlier, and began placing the puppies inside as fast as she could. 1, 2, 3, her breathing grew faster. Smoke was spreading now, rolling across the ceiling. The fire alarm shrieked through the building. 4, 5, 6. Luna whined weakly, trying to stand but stumbling. Ivy lifted her by the collar and helped her toward the door. 7, 8, 9. The fire crackled louder, so loud Ivy realized it wasn't spreading naturally. Someone had started it on purpose. 10, 11, 12. Her throat burned. Her eyes watered. She forced herself to keep moving. 13, 14. The last puppy let out one sharp cry as she placed it in the carrier. 15. All of them were inside. Ivy slung the carrier over her shoulder, grabbed Luna's leash and ran toward the back exit. When she pushed on the door, it didn't budge. Jam. She shoved harder. Nothing. Her heart pounded faster. The fire hissed behind her, growing taller and hotter. She turned and ran toward the side hallway. Flames were already eating through the wooden counter. The heat felt like it was pushing her back. "Come on, Luna," she pleaded. The dog stumbled beside her, coughing. The front doors were their only hope. Ivy lowered her shoulder and rammed into them. They burst open and cold night air rushed in like a lifeline. She dragged Luna out, carrying the puppies tight against her chest. But as soon as she stepped into the parking lot, she saw it. A dark truck speeding away. The same kind Clint had driven. Ivy watched its taillights disappear down the empty road. Her fear turned into something sharper. Anger, determination, a promise she felt deep inside. Someone wanted Luna and her strange litter gone. Someone wanted the truth buried. But Ivy had saved them. And now she needed answers. She looked down at the weak mother dog leaning against her and the carrier filled with newborns. "This isn't over," she whispered. And she meant it. Ivy spent the night at a small farm owned by her friend Emma. one of the only people she trusted in Maple Ridge. The fire had destroyed the clinic, and she didn't want to risk staying anywhere Clint or his boss could guess. Emma helped her set up a quiet corner in the barn with blankets, heat lamps, and clean towels. Luna lay close to her puppies, too tired to do anything except watch Ivy with soft, grateful eyes. By morning, Ivy's phone was filled with messages. One stood out. It was from Marcus Hale, a state wildlife officer she had met once during a routine checkup call. Saw the news. Fire looks suspicious. Call me. No. Ivy didn't hesitate. When Marcus arrived, he walked into the barn with a serious look on his face. He was calm and steady, but she could tell he already expected something bad. When he saw the puppies, his calmness vanished. He knelt beside the carrier and studied them one by one. His brows pulled together, and his jaw tightened with every strange feature he noticed. The big paws, the odd fur patterns, the sharp little cries. Ivy, he said slowly, these aren't dog puppies. I know, she whispered. He gently lifted one of them, turning it in his hands with careful movements. The newborn made a small, wild sound that didn't match its tiny size. I've heard this cry before, Marcus said. Not in dogs. In wild canines. Ivy felt her stomach twist. Like wolves? He nodded. Red wolves. The rare kind. The kind protected by federal law. Ivy felt the world tilt. But how? Luna is a golden retriever. How could she? Marcus looked at Luna's stomach and shook his head. Those scars weren't from an injury. Someone put embryos inside her. This was done in a lab. By someone with money. Someone with access to illegal wildlife genetics. Ivy covered her mouth with her hand. Everything was finally fitting together. Clint's threats, the fire, the strange puppies, the surgical marks. Marcus stood and paced, thinking hard. This isn't small time, he said. This is a breeding operation. A hidden one. Someone is making hybrid animals, and that's not just illegal, it's dangerous. Ivy felt a cold shiver run down her spine. Clint said they belonged to Mr. Lowell from Harper Ridge Ranch. Marcus stopped pacing. His face darkened. Lowell? That man's been on our radar for years. Smuggling, illegal hunts, shady auctions. But we've never been able to pin anything on him. He looked at Ivy with a mix of frustration and admiration. And now you've walked right into the middle of it. Ivy swallowed hard. They tried to burn the clinic down with us inside. They won't stop until they get these puppies. Marcus nodded. Which means we move fast. We gather evidence. We use these pups to expose Lowell's operation. He crouched beside Luna again. But if they realize you're working with us, they'll come hard and fast. They won't hesitate. Ivy felt fear rise in her chest, but something stronger rose with it. I'm not giving them back, she said. Not after what they've done. Marcus gave a small, determined nod. Then we fight this together. He stood, his voice firm and steady. But Ivy, you need to understand something. She looked up at him. With men like Lowell, he said, once they start a pursuit, they don't give up. Ivy looked down at the tiny, strange newborns curled together, unaware of the danger around them. Then neither will I, she said quietly. And for the first time since this nightmare began, she felt ready. By the next evening, Ivy, Marcus, and Emma had a plan. They would move Luna and the puppies to a safe house used by wildlife officers. From there, Marcus's team would collect DNA samples and build a case strong enough to bring down Mr. Lowell and everyone working with him. But Ivy had a feeling Lowell wouldn't wait quietly. And she was right. Just after sunset, while Emma checked the generator and Marcus loaded his truck, Ivy stepped outside to get fresh air. The barn door creaked behind her and a cold wind brushed across the fields. That was when she heard it. A crunch of gravel. A low rumble of an engine. She turned and froze. 2 black trucks. Headlights off. Rolling silently up the dirt road toward the barn. Her heart jumped into her throat. They found us, Ivy whispered. She sprinted back inside. Marcus, they're here. Marcus didn't waste a second. He rushed to the puppies, scooping the carrier into his arms. Emma grabbed Luna's leash. Ivy shoved the side door open just as the first truck skidded to a stop outside. Men stepped out. Not Clint. Worse. Bigger men. Harsher faces. Cold eyes. One of them called out, "Bring the animals out and nobody gets hurt." Marcus shook his head. "We're not giving them anything." The man raised something in his hand. A crowbar. Sharp and heavy. Ivy's breath tightened. Marcus whispered, "Back exit. Now." They ran through the narrow hallway that connected the barn to Emma's old storage shed. Luna limped beside them. The puppies squeaked and wriggled inside the carrier, sensing the chaos. Behind them, the front doors crashed open. Footsteps thundered in. Voices shouted. Marcus pushed Ivy and Emma through the back door first. "Get to the truck," he yelled, tossing Ivy the keys. But Ivy stopped. She saw something behind Marcus. Clint, standing in the open doorway. Rain dripping off his jacket. A look in his eyes that made her blood run cold. "End of the road," he said. "Give us the litter." Marcus stepped in front of Ivy, ready to fight if he had to. But Luna did something none of them expected. The tired, gentle dog who had barely been able to stand suddenly planted herself between the group and Clint. Her fur bristled. A deep growl rose from her chest, strong, fierce, protective. Clint backed up a step in surprise. That one moment was enough. Marcus grabbed Ivy's arm. "Go." They ran into the night. Ivy helped Luna into the back seat while Marcus jumped behind the wheel. The truck's engines roared as Lowell's men realized their escape. Tires spit gravel. Headlights cut through the dark. Marcus floored the gas, speeding down the country road with the other trucks right behind them. Ivy held the carrier tight as the puppies whimpered. Luna leaned against her, trembling but alert, ready to protect her babies. "Are they gaining?" Ivy asked. Marcus checked the mirror. "They're close. Too close." Then, from the trees ahead, a second set of lights appeared. Not trucks. Wildlife patrol trucks. "Back up." They sped toward Marcus's vehicle, lights flashing. The road exploded with shouts, tires screeching, engines braking hard. Lowell's men tried to turn around, but the patrol blocked every direction. In seconds the chase was over. Marcus parked safely off the road. Officers rushed past them, shouting orders, handcuffing the men who had caused so much fear and pain. Clint was dragged from his truck, cursing. Lowell himself was pulled out from the passenger seat of the second vehicle, his face twisted in shock. He had never expected to lose. But he had. Ivy sank back in her seat, shaking with relief. "It's over," she whispered. Marcus nodded gently. "Yeah, you did it." "No," Ivy said, looking down at Luna and her 15 strange, beautiful babies. "She did." Weeks later, after DNA tests and long investigations, Lowell's entire operation was shut down. Every person involved was charged. More hidden animals were rescued from his properties. And Luna? She recovered. Stronger every day. The puppies were moved to a protected wildlife center where they could grow safely, cared for by experts who understood what they were. A rare, illegal mix of dog and wild wolf, but alive because one young vet refused to walk away. Every Sunday Ivy visited them. She watched them run, play and grow, bigger, faster, wilder than any dog she had ever known. And each time she left, Luna would sit beside the gate, her tail sweeping the ground, eyes warm and grateful. Their story had started with fear, but it ended with hope. And if you want more stories like this, make sure you're subscribed because there's always another tale waiting right around the corner.